Welcome to this podcast, Married to His Will. I am Suzette Williams, your host and licensed professional counselor in the state of Georgia. If you are listening for the first time, I welcome you especially. If you're in a struggle and feeling stuck, you have come to the right place. This podcast is made just for you so that you will know you can become unstuck. Today, I am married to the will of God, as I have discovered that His purpose for my life is always bigger than my status or whatever circumstance I find myself in. I originally thought the continuous struggle of my 19 to 20-year marriage was my purpose, but it was only to be used for God's greater purpose in my life. I realized that my sacrifice to stay in an abusive marriage was not the kind of sacrifice God required, but that the promise of salvation was not only from eternal hell, but for situations beyond my ability to manage. I became free from a place of bondage so that you can be free also. 1 Corinthians 10:13 tells me that there is no temptation or struggle that God cannot deliver me from. He will provide a way of escape out of that struggle you face. He did that for me. It's by His grace that I endured 19 years of the same struggle. He said, I am bringing you out so that you can become who I have called you to become. And now I am delivered and married to His will. Invite your friends on the journey with me as I share biblical insights, share my personal stories, and clinical insights from my own expertise and knowledge. And I plan to have others join me along the way. Enjoy this next episode. Happy Women's History Month. Welcome to this episode of Married to His Will. Today I'm starting a new season and I thought it the best time to have my friend with me, Elizabeth Laguerre. She was with me last year. She was on 2 episodes and we met at the Mantle Conference last year, and since then we've been very connected. And today I'm so happy to introduce her to some. She's somebody who loves the Lord, and we connected by His divine will. And today we're talking about a topic that I haven't really touched on here, and it's about health and nutrition. But we're going to get into that, so stay tuned and welcome my friend, Elizabeth Laguerre. Yay! So happy to have my wonderful friend Liz here again with me. I started calling her Liz because I feel like, I'm kind of like a family member by now. Okay?
Yeah, of course. Yes, you are. Absolutely.
So here is Liz, Elizabeth Laguerre. She's joining me again, right?
Yes.
And, we always have a lot to talk about. So we had our pre-conversation before all this, before the audience got privy to what we're about to share. And it's always nice to catch up with you, Liz.
Same.
Yeah, since our connection, since we met at Mantle Conference last year, it's like, I feel like the rest has been history. For me, it's like you gave me one thing and God just catapulted me from that, and this podcast has been a blessing to me and to my life, and having you here more than once has been a blessing. But this is your first time here this year, so welcome again.
Thank
to
you.
Married to His Will. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. So
I'm so excited to be back.
Yes. So catch the people up on what you've been up to. What's your life like right now? I know you still have your son, obviously. How old is he now?
He's turning 5 in a couple months, which is crazy. I'm like, I'm about to have a 5-year-old. Wow. But he's amazing. He just got Student of the Month. I have his little certificate. But yeah, he's doing really good. He's doing really good.
You're doing a good job with him then. Awesome.
Thank you. And yeah, I mean, I look different, I'm sure.
I love the look too.
Yeah. I just, I literally one day I woke up and I was like, I want to shave my head. And I just 3 days later, it happened.
It comes with the
And I think,
divorce. Trust me, it
yeah,
comes.
it was just like I just wanted a fresh start, and I
Yes.
love it. I love it. It's just like, I get to see me and my whole face, and it's funny because I went back and watched an episode that I recorded for Pink's Couch Sessions for Deborah
Oh,
Circle, and it's funny on one of the episodes, like my friend was talking about that, how when she cut her hair was this moment where it was like, this is me, like look out world,
yeah.
this is me. And so, like 2 years later, like I'm experiencing that. So it's like it was almost
Wow.
prophetic in a way. Um,
Yeah. I've cut my
but
hair
yeah,
twice. So I've done the chop
yeah,
twice. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's amazing. Honestly, like
Yeah,
I
it's
feel like
so
I'm never going
freeing.
back. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah, it's so freeing. It's a fresh start. That's all. It
Yeah,
signifies all of that. I want to do
yeah.
something else. I won't tell the audience what I'm going to do, but I feel like I need to do something.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be something. I may seem rebellious. I have no idea,
Do
but
it. Do it. Honestly, like,
something to mark the new season I'm entering into. I feel like I'm entering into a
yes.
new season. I'm letting go of some dead weights, right?
Yes.
I've been talking about dead weights for a lot of the podcasts. Like, I just need to be light and walk
Hmm.
freely in this life, right?
Yes. Yes.
Um, so anyway, you're catching us up. So are you
Hmm.
dating anyone right now?
No. I'm not dating, but I mean, I'm open to dating,
Hmm.
which is a huge that's a lot of growth for me because I was at a point, I mean, I was at a point where I was like, I'm done. Like, I don't want it.
Yeah.
Don't come to me.
Oh my
But
gosh.
I'm trying to, God is still working on me because honestly, I can be very I don't know the word stubborn. Like even my dad was asking me the other day. He's like, "No guys are like coming to you, whatever." And I was like,
Yeah.
"They're coming, but like I don't want them." Like, so,
I'm with you, girl, on that. Like, man, let it be
but
somebody I want.
yeah, like I'm really, so I'm open to it, but I'm not settling for anyone.
I hear
I'm
you.
really like, I'm reading this book. Where is it? Oh, somewhere over there. But
Okay.
it's basically about like not settling, and
Yeah.
um, she like gives you very practical steps about like, making a list of your non-negotiables and all these things that are very
Yes.
practical. And it was like it's a good exercise for me because I've seen in my life where a lot of times I've done those things, but I veered away from it. So it's like I am
Wow.
committed to like if you don't meet this like the minimum, like you
Yeah.
can't even apply. Like don't I'm
Wow.
not even gonna waste it, my time.
That's
So
important.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
good. I
The
think women.
non-negotiables, knowing what they are.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's so good for us to know because then when you do see someone that you're interested in, whatever, it's like you already know kind of how to like steer that conversation, what to ask, what to
Hmm.
look for, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Um, and then, another update in terms of my job, it's funny because um, God is just always challenging me to like to just be obedient and follow his
Okay.
voice. And I recently resigned from my job because I was being led that way for a
Mm.
couple months, but I had to know that I was hearing God correctly, because
Hmm.
that's a big move. And I was like, "Ooh, like, is this God?" But I
Wow.
kept getting confirmation after confirmation, basically that like the brook has dried up. Like I was there for a specific assignment and I've completed the assignment. And so it's like
Wow.
when the assignment is done, when God says shift, you shift because the danger is you can stay at a place for too long and then
Yeah.
what was a blessing starts to become a burden. And that's what was
Absolutely.
happening because I was fighting, I was resisting. So finally I had to have a check-in and I was like, what's holding me back? And what was holding me back from moving on was fear. And because I
Wow.
made a commitment to kill fear in my life 3 years ago now, I made that
Yeah.
commitment that if I'm afraid of something, I actually have to do it. So
Yes.
once I saw
Wow.
that it was fear, I was like, no, then I have to do it. So let me tell you, let me just give a testimony real quick.
Tell the testimony.
Because I resigned on Sunday and I got
Okay.
a job offer on Wednesday. Okay. And like my commute was crazy. It was just like, my son's getting older. He's starting to get involved in more things. So it's like I want to be there so he can like go to the things, and I
Yeah.
want to be the soccer mom and all that stuff. But because of my commute, it was like it wasn't even possible because there was also a bridge collapse. It's a whole long story. So my commute was like doubled. But now, like, it's local. It's my
Mhm.
job now is 10 minutes away from my son's school. Like, it's just amazing. So like God, when you are obedient,
Yeah.
when you shift when he says shift, when you pivot when he says pivot,
Yeah.
like he's gonna take care of you. So that is a very
Absolutely.
recent
Mm.
update. Um, but
That's
yeah,
so in
so
line with.
I'm just God is good. God is
Yeah,
good.
he's so good. That's so in line with when you talk about pivoting when God says to pivot or when to move.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
valuable, so important. I know for me, I've had to make several moves in my life. Obviously, one of them was, freeing myself of a bad marriage, like you did.
Hmm.
But then the move to just even leave a certain place,
Hmm.
to for whatever God had next for me, and I've had to make that kind of move several times, and it's yielded good results when I've been obedient.
Hmm.
So I'm glad you did that for yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's so
Yes.
important. And it's funny because you talk about, relationships, not the freedom to date. Like right now, that's where I am. I'm so thankful for the freedom too, because I was telling you, Liz, right before we got on here, God gave me more clarity this week on some things I had in mind. Just I certainly had a stronghold on my heart for someone. I mentioned it as a stronghold because it was this fortress around my mind that nothing else couldn't make me let it go.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
the belief around it was so strong that it was hard for me to let it go. And it's so funny as I'm remembering now, it was a couple weeks ago, or even last week, I was praying against strongholds of the mind. I didn't know I was praying
Mm.
for myself.
Look at that. You see, that's the genius of God that we don't even know.
Yes,
He knows what he's doing when we're led in that way. So I love that.
yes. And so I had this friend, and he was telling me, you just gotta let go. And I said, it's not that easy because it's like wrapped around a belief. And
Hmm.
anyway, I eventually got the closure I needed, by having a conversation with the person that I had in mind. And it was so freeing.
Mm.
So freeing. I mean, that thing stressed me out.
Hmm.
But I'm
Yeah.
so glad to be so free, and that can segue into the conversation that I really wanted to have today about health, because there are so many things that can affect our health, right? Especially
Hmm.
our mental health. But our bodies is all connected as it relates to our physical health, our mental health, and just health in general. And
Hmm.
so, just having this thing that was weighing heavy on my heart was just not good for me physically or mentally. And I'm just so happy to have let it go. But so get segue into that topic,
Hmm.
I'm on a journey, a new journey of physical health, and I've had several journeys of
Yes.
physical health. If you're a woman and you're over 40, you've probably tried different diets and, different programs. And I mean, I'm no different. I've tried a couple,
Hmm.
but it just boils down to having education, right, surrounding nutrition and
Hmm.
knowing what's good for your body. And so,
Hmm.
where I am with all the journey I've been on, I've come to a point where I feel like I have enough knowledge to know what's not good for me to eat and what's good that I can eat, right?
Hmm.
And I know when I'm not, when I'm just eating for entertainment and for happiness and
Yeah.
emotions.
Yeah.
Yes, and this week was one of those weeks that I started this new program of running, right? And so I'm getting the adrenaline, I mean, active again.
Hmm.
And but while I was started this journey of health, of physical health, I was also in the mode of getting up to pray and all of that. So because I want my spiritual health to be good too.
Hmm.
But there was that one thing on my mind that was distracting that I just mentioned, that stronghold that was around my heart. I said, God, I need to do something about that this week.
Yes.
I need to talk to this person. Once I got the go ahead from my friend, he was like, yes, call this person. And I did. And I released myself of that weight. And so now I can run freely. And as I think about the
Mm.
metaphor of running, like there's some pain that you have to endure, even in the process of
Hmm.
trying to prepare for a 5K or a marathon down the road. Hopefully, I can get to that point where I can run a marathon.
Hmm. You can do it, girl. You
Yeah,
can do all things.
yeah, I can do all things.
Yes.
Yes, I can. So I started with this program called Run for God, and my twin sister and I are doing it, and so we're prepping for a 5K. But it's a lifestyle that I want to make out of it, and so um, just the metaphor of my physical journey and what I was going through emotionally, I realized it's a process, right? The Bible talks
Mm,
about running this race with patience,
hmm.
right?
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and there's the joy that's set before me that
Hmm.
is allowing me to push forward, right? Like I
Hmm.
know that the race is not for the swift nor for the strong, but for those who endure to the
Mm.
end.
That's been a theme, endurance.
Yes,
Yes.
endurance. So I have to
Yes.
endure no matter the test and the trial. So tell me about your health journey, help me with your testimony because I've seen you, when I look
Hmm.
at you, you seem to be in shape and, you take those sculpted pictures. I'm like, okay, girl, look at that body. You better rock it. Okay. Goals. They have couple goals. I have body goals. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay. You tell me about how you got that body, girl.
Well, it's been a journey. So, when I was younger, I was chubby. Like I was fluffy. I was the chubby sister, and my sister is like she's 2 years older. They always thought I was the older one. They would make, people can be mean. They would be like, "Oh, you gave her all the food," like things like that. So, yeah, like I could laugh at it now, but in the moment, my heart was like,
Chubby.
"Oh, like so mean.
Okay.
People could be so mean." Um, but so for me, I think at the beginning, like the very beginning of my like health or like weight loss really journey, it was all about the weight. It was about I just wanted to be a certain
Mm,
size. I wanted to be like my sister. Like I just wanted to be skinny.
yeah.
And then I think the more that I went through, the focus started to shift. Where once I got to a weight where I felt comfortable, it was more about like strength and like it was almost like
Ah,
proving to myself that I could do certain things. And so when I really started to get like serious about my journey, my health journey, it was in 2022 when I joined a jujitsu gym and I got into boxing
wow.
for the first time. And I
Boxing.
got a
I've thought about that.
trainer. Oh my God,
Ah,
I love boxing. Like boxing to this day, I still box every weekend. Like it is
wow.
something that one, I didn't know like I'm good at it. Um, and two, like just the release that you get from boxing because we
Yeah.
carry so much during the week or in different interactions and stress and whatever, and just when life's we hold that
Yeah.
in our bodies. And so there's a power in moving your body because it allows you to release it. But I even in thinking about our conversation, I started to think about how in 2022 I started my own business that like I have it's been kind of on pause for a long time, honestly.
Yeah.
But it was called Rafa Health, and the whole purpose of it was for like, leading women and girls, to proper like health and wellness, but with a God-centered focus.
Yeah.
And so like there were 7 facets of health that we focused on, which were your physical activity, your nutrition, your
Hmm.
spirituality, your finances, your relationships, your career, and creativity. And
Okay.
so when I think about that, like when you take a holistic approach to health, that is really the only way that you can really start to see changes, in a way that is going to be sustainable over time. Because if we focus just on the physical health, or if you focus just on the nutrition, you're gonna miss out on these other things. And
Yeah.
for me, what's really like key is that oftentimes we find ourselves, if you are like overindulging in food or overindulging in whatever, it may be because you are lacking in one of these other areas, right? So
Wow.
for me, one of the biggest ones was like relationships, where relationally I didn't have like strong relationships because I was at a point in time where God had like moved everyone out of my life, and it was kind of like
Yeah.
me and God, and I got very comfortable in that. But then God was like, okay, now I have to nudge you because you have to kind of like get back out there. Like, you know, you can't become like a recluse, like you have to be around people.
Yeah.
And so I was overcompensating. Like I almost like working out could become an idol because it was like, well, I'm just going to be in the gym going hard. But it's because are you working out, or because you're avoiding
Wow.
like being around other people, you know? So it's like, I think it's important that we take a holistic approach to our health so that we are feeding all the different parts of us, right? Because
Agreed.
our physical food, like a lot of times, like we don't really need a lot of food to survive,
Yeah.
but we can overeat, and we can, you know, focus on that because we're not filled in these other places. And I think
Yeah.
for women as well, like another one I would want to highlight is creativity, because I think a lot of
Yes.
people would be like, oh, creativity, like I wouldn't really think about that for my health, but
That's
it's a
important.
huge part because you need an outlet. You need an outlet to express yourself. And so some people that comes more naturally. If you are more like artistically inclined or whatever, you're a painter, you are a singer, whatever, like that comes naturally. But
Yeah.
like people, everyone is creative in some way. Your
Yeah.
creativity might come out through your cooking. Your creativity might come out through the clothes that you wear and fashion, and how you
Yeah.
put things together, you know, or writing, whatever it might be. But you have to make sure that you are giving yourself that space and that time to really indulge in those creative outlets so that you have a way of expressing yourself, because when that doesn't happen, a part of you is stifled, and so
Yeah.
you're not able to really like reach those optimal levels of health. So
So
I think it's
important.
like, for me, it's just like it started with physical like activity and really like nutrition and looking a certain way, but then over time now I'm really starting to see that like health is it's a amalgamation of all of these things, and in
Yes.
order to really be at my optimal level, and for me, like I am about mastery. So it's like
Wow.
I'm always pushing myself to the next level. So yeah, in my physical health, like okay, boxing, whatever, endurance, running, like I want to do all that. I want to like increase and get better. But also in all of these other areas, I want to make sure that I'm taking the proper steps to make sure that I am advancing in those as well.
That's so good. I love
Yeah.
that you're not just focused on the physical, but you have achieved it, right? Do you feel like you're at your, do you feel like you've arrived at your goals physically? Like you've touched on all your goals?
Yeah, I guess yes and no. Just because I'm someone who's always in competition with myself. So like I'm happy with like my weight. I'm happy with like my muscle mass, and like, you know, I have abs and all of that. But I think there's always room for improvement. I'm never
Yeah.
someone who's like satisfied, and you know, maybe that's a gift and a curse, I don't know. But I think that's just kind of how I'm wired. So
Okay.
I'm content, but I think I'm always looking to like level up and push
Wow.
myself. So yeah, and it's funny
Wow.
because you got into running. So I mentioned it a little bit before we started recording, but I actually in the last season, my church has crews, which are like small groups, and I
Yeah.
was actually in a running crew. Um,
Oh.
yeah, and it was all women, and it was great. And it's funny because part of, you know, my diet in terms of nutrition, I was raw vegan for almost 3 years. So for
What?
those who don't know,
Raw vegan.
raw
So
vegan is you don't eat any cooked food. You are just eating raw fruits and vegetables. And so I was really
for
like
three
John the
years.
Baptist for real.
Oh my God. That is some discipline, girl, because I
Yeah,
don't
but
know.
it's funny though because I like I was graced for it. Like God literally led me to that type of like it began as a fast. So I was on a 40-day fast. And
Yeah.
after the fast, I heard the Lord tell me like now go raw vegan. And I was like,
Wow.
okay. And it's funny because it was so easy, but I don't think that would have happened if I wasn't graced for it. You know, if I tried to do that in my
Right.
own
Right.
strength, I would have probably failed. And I thought this was it for life. But then when I started to run more, when I joined that running club, you know, running you're burning a lot of calories, and that's a
Yeah.
lot of movement. So you're gonna be more hungry. And
Yeah.
so I would find myself like literally it sounds ridiculous, but I would be like daydreaming about like cooked broccoli, like literally cooked broccoli.
I'm
I'm
so
not kidding.
sorry. That's
Like,
not a dream I want to have about broccoli.
like I would be daydreaming about like cooked steamed vegetables and potatoes. Like I
Your
just
body
wanted veggies
needed
and
it.
potatoes. Yes. And so I kept going back and forth. This was like a month where I was like, oh my gosh, it's just like daydreaming, like my mouth salivating just thinking about this stuff. And then I felt like I like inside it was like, why are you fighting it? Like it's not a sin to eat cooked food. And I was like, oh, and I was like, oh, okay, like this is allowed.
It's not a sentence.
It's not a
Yeah.
sin. I
Oh
could
my
eat it. I could eat
gosh.
like eat your vegetables, eat your cooked vegetables.
Like honestly though.
Yeah,
Wow, you
but
remind me of the dream God had to give. I think it was Paul. It was Paul. You had to give Paul the dream, right? Like, don't
yeah,
call what I call clean, you know?
yeah,
Kind of
yeah,
thing. That's so
yes. Yeah,
interesting.
I needed that because honestly, like I don't know, I think I can become very intense. Like when I get a word, like
Yeah.
I'll be like it's just this, and I can kind of get stringent. And so I think God sees that I'm like that, so He has to
Yeah.
be like, okay, relax, like you can
Yes.
still eat. So I'm still vegan now, but I'm eating cooked food, which my mother
Okay.
is very happy about. It was like right around Thanksgiving, so she's like, oh my gosh, she's like, you're eating cooked food again. She was like
Wow.
so happy. But I was scared. I was scared. That first meal, I was petrified because I was like, I don't know
Really?
what my body's gonna do.
Yeah,
But
okay.
but it
Yeah,
was fine. Like I literally didn't have like any weird negative reaction. So that also shows that like you have to listen to your body, which is part of health too. It's like, we need to be in tune with our
yeah.
bodies. So
Absolutely.
when I think like I that's why I never go by like counting calories or whatever,
Yeah.
because if you just listen to your body, there are some times when like especially as women, like if you are menstruating or whatever, you're about to start your
Mhm.
cycle, if you feel a little bit more hungry, that's normal. So
Yeah.
allow yourself to eat more,
Yeah.
make wise choices about what you're going to be
Obviously,
eating,
yes.
but eat because your
Mhm.
body is signaling to you that it needs that.
Mhm.
And but also listen to your body. If you're really not hungry, don't just grab something and start snacking because you're not really hungry. So
Yeah.
it's just like the more we are intuitively like aligned with our bodies and we can listen to what our
Yeah.
body's asking for, like you're gonna reach optimal health because you're working with yourself.
I
And I
love
think a lot
that.
of times we work against ourselves. like
Mhm.
like your body will signal I'm full, but we'll keep pushing and then you feel sick and then you like it's just things like that. The more in tune you
Mm.
are, the better. But it starts
Yeah.
with really having a handle on all of the areas of health
Right.
within
I
the
love
health
that
system.
you've mentioned all the areas that work together, not just I'm
Hmm.
going to be hyper focused on, I'm just dealing with the physical, then everything else is off kilter, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
I love that. But I'm curious about before you became raw vegan, what you were
Hmm.
eating just regular, right? You said you were like normally pudgy, right? At some points
Hmm.
that you get made fun of, but
Yeah.
to hear eat raw vegan. I've had this moments where I wanted to go vegan, but I guess I haven't had a real word from the Lord yet. But there are moments yeah, like
Yeah.
I've been on keto, and of course, it's not sustainable for the long haul. It's for short term. So
Hmm.
I'm already over diets, right? I'm over certain
Hmm.
diets. But I definitely know a lifestyle. I've tried Noom. Noom has really helped me to have the psychology behind it, um,
Hmm.
to understand my nutrition and things like that. I did count calories, and I am conscious of it. For some reason, I'm conscious of how much I'm eating,
Hmm.
but I'm also very conscious of what I'm eating, like what I'm
Hmm.
putting in my body. And I know when I'm putting those empty calories in. So
Hmm.
definitely know that.
Yeah.
But just to eat vegetables. So explain what a vegan eats. I definitely want to hear more about a
Yeah.
veganism.
Yeah, so vegan is just you can eat. I guess it's just easier to explain what you don't eat. So we don't
Okay,
eat
yes.
any meat or animal products,
Okay.
no dairy.
Hmm.
Um, and for me, like I really aim to just be all organic or as organic as possible.
Okay.
So I can still have like rice and bean. Like I'm Haitian, so
Okay,
Caribbean.
grains.
So all of that, all the grains, like starches, you can eat it all. just not animal products or dairy.
Okay.
So for me, I think if there's one thing that I would tell people, I think just focus on eating like whole foods.
Whole food.
So like, in terms of your plate, like I said, I'm not a big like calorie counter, but I think it's looking at your plate and looking at what you are putting on your plate. The majority of your plate should be greens, I think.
Yes.
So whatever vegetable that is, whether it's a combination or if it's a salad or whatever, like that should be the majority.
Yeah.
Protein obviously is important. So whether you eat chicken, whether you eat turkey, whatever it is, I think lean meats, like it should be a go-to, especially, as we start to age and all of that,
Yeah.
just being conscious of
So
your
do
body.
you eat, and you don't eat meat at all, though?
I don't, no.
No chicken
But-
or fish or...
No, but
Okay.
I went through like when I was like on the journey of like trying to discover what my purpose is, I actually, that's kind of how this like business got birthed with Rafa Health. Because I went through a nutrition school, and what I loved about that school is that they didn't teach you to just focus on one particular type of diet, but they taught you like that basically people need to understand their bodies. Because for my body, veganism and even raw vegan, like that worked for me. Some people, like their bodies would literally start to shut down because they're just wired differently. So like for my son, a lot of people are like, oh, well, is your son vegan, whatever? And it's like he's mostly, but no, he's not, because I allow him to, if he's at my mother's house or whatever, like if they give him meat, I'm not gonna be like, oh my God, the world is over, And also he's built different. Like my son loves cheese. Like he loves cheese. And so, in the beginning when he was younger, I would see like he had like, I thought he had like a sensitivity to it, but that it could also be because like I just wasn't exposing to him to it as much.
At all.
So it's like I'm never gonna push what works for me onto you, because your body functions differently. So I think it's just understanding what works for your body. That's why there's not like a one size fits all to these things. It's just like you kind of have to discover what is the thing for you. So but I think as long as you focus on like whole foods, and trying to eat organic, trying to have your fresh fruits and vegetables, and just making sure like that is the main focus at all times. Even if you like, okay, if you're gonna eat, but if you're eating like real food as opposed to like a bag of Doritos, like I would rather you have the plate of real food, you know what I mean? So I think it's focusing on that, and then like from there, like obviously like your portions. We live in America where portions are out of control, ridiculous. Like I remember I have family in France, and I remember going to Paris for my cousin's wedding one year, and their portions are small, by our like Western standards, but like it's fine. And I think we have to kind of like retrain our brain, because even when I went raw vegan, and even just thinking about spiritually, like all the times where God called me to fast, it was also like, yes, fasting is spiritual because you fast and you pray, you know, and so it's just like you are training your body to kill, your flesh. But also I think it teaches you to recognize that you don't actually need or require as much food as like people try to tell you that you do. Like we have all these things about
hungry in America.
Yeah, right. Like the food pyramid and like, all these diagrams and stuff that we learn in school. To me, it's poo-poo. Like it's not real. It's someone who decided it because of, I think because of capitalism, and they want you to spend a certain amount on these things, but I'll leave my politics aside. But like in real life, we don't really need that much. Like I could function on one meal a day, and I think a lot of people can, but they just it's just a foreign concept to them. So they hear it and they're like, no. But actually, like if you're eating like, your fruits, your veggies, if you have a combination of those things, you're actually fine. So
I remember growing up in Jamaica, as a child, we had access to a lot of fruits, and vegetables just in our yard, right? Like, we could go up in the tree and climb the tree and pick a mango, and we're happy, right?
Yes.
So we were eating good snacks. That was our snack throughout the day. We weren't craving the things we crave now, unfortunately, where we live.
Right.
It's so easy to have access to the unhealthy snacks.
And they're addictive. Like there's literally, they place like the chemicals that are in those junk foods like we get addicted to them. So it's like your brain becomes wired to want that. So it's not even that your body needs it, it's that now that it's messed up the chemical like functioning of your body, so that it's like, okay, if I'm feeling X, I need this. It's like drugs. It's like there's all this stuff about drugs, but it's like literally the supermarket is a drugstore. Like that's the biggest drug pusher, you know, in
For
this country is
real.
the
Oh my
supermarket.
God. So much chemicals we're eating. It's just not so toxic. It's interesting while you were talking and you're thinking of all the different connections to our health. It's all about relationship. What is your relationship with food? What is your relationship with people? What is your relationship with money? What is your relationship with just yourself? You know, are you in tune with you? And I just love that thought, because if we do consider our relationship or the way we eat as a relationship, if we want it to be healthy, maybe that's a good way to consider it. Like, is my relationship with food toxic or healthy?
That's a good question. Yeah.
Never thought of it till this moment, you know? Um, again, the thoughts come into my mind about running this race with patience. You know, whatever you're doing, do it with patience. Be patient with yourself, not be in a hurry to have an outcome, like to have a sculpted body. And if it's not happening in your timeline, you want to give up.
Right. Yeah. Because it's about the journey, not about the destination,
Exactly.
you know? And so I think, like, obviously, especially if you think about like a weight loss journey, whatever, like I think it's wise to have like a goal in mind, but I think you have to be willing to, like you said, let go of the timeline and just focus on the actual journey, because really, like, we should be loving ourselves at every size. And especially, again, thinking about women, like, you know, as we get older, like your body just, you can't bounce back as fast. Or, you know, if you have a baby and then it takes more time to get the baby weight off or whatever it is, or a health complication might come up and that causes, like, there could be so many factors that pop up in our lives. So if we are so stuck on a certain image, then literally, like, will be destroyed. But if you love yourself at every point of the journey and just learn how to adjust, it's really about being like flexible, right? Like, you know, there's this one of my high school students, she would always make me laugh because she always would say in like her Bruce Lee voice, be like water, be like water. But there's that, you know, I don't know if you've ever seen that clip from Bruce Lee where he talks about that, like how we have to be like water, like water just flows, like if it goes, you know, into a certain, like and then whatever container that it's in, it adjusts to that container, right? But if it's poured into something else, it molds into that. So we have to be the same way, where we are able to adjust and be malleable. And I think about scripturally how we are potter, right? We are clay in the hands of the potter. So like we have to be malleable. God has to be able to mold us and shape us, but we have to be willing to yield to him. And I think that is the biggest like blockage, where like it's at that point when we allow ourselves to yield, everything else comes naturally, because that's freedom. But Jesus died for our freedom. But if we are fighting always because we want to control and we want it to be this way and the timeline has to be like this, then we're actually like, we become our own stumbling block. So I think it's just letting go of control and just releasing and just being like, I'm just going to be like water and I'm going to let it flow, because everything just comes so much easier that way. And then when God says move, you're like, okay. And you move because you develop a relationship where you know I can trust him. Like, even if I don't understand it, even if it makes me a little bit uncomfortable, but I know who my father is. So if he's saying it, this is the right way, you know?
Yes. Oh my God, my head's spinning. Like, I'm thinking about all the relationship, the things you're identifying that food is related to, our relationship with food, how we flow, right? Being flexible with ourselves is important. Being patient with ourselves is important. And then the word currency, when you were doing the flowing with like water, are moving like water. I'm like thinking of how we should with our money and the relationship between food and money and the currency.
Mm.
Oh my God, like I'm getting so much
So much.
revelation. And the thing is, God wants to be interwoven in every area of our lives,
Yes. Yes.
right? What are
Yeah.
we investing our money and our time in is
Mm-hmm.
important to our living, how we're
Mm-hmm.
living. And so, I want to invest in the proper foods, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not worry about, because a lot of people use the excuse that healthy foods are more expensive. But it's actually very expensive to keep up with the illness.
Right. Exactly.
It's very
Yeah.
expensive. And recently, I came to realize I didn't have health insurance anymore. I'm like, where did I drop the ball? I thought I enrolled.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
Life.
I
That's
realized,
listen, I've been
life.
there.
So I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't have health insurance, so I guess I better get on the holistic path and I'm going to spend some money on myself because,
Mm-hmm.
I need these medications and I'm like, I just want to be off of them. And I've been, being practical about, even spiritually, I've been, practicing the word and, declaring healing over myself.
Mm-hmm.
But more than that, I'm like, I need to really walk by faith in my everyday life concerning my health,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it means I have to trust that God will provide the healthy food that I need. So I can make my budget work for me surrounding what's going to be healthy, and it's really not that expensive over time. It's
It's
more costly to
not.
go to the doctor for sure.
Yeah. And the thing is that when you have an openness to be led by God in that way,
Yeah,
like he's gonna guide you. Let me tell you, there was, when I was going through my season of when I was on a sabbatical from life, that 6 month period, I didn't have health insurance. I was homeschooling. It was like me and God literally going on faith because I had nothing, I had no income. I had like it was
yeah,
crazy, but it was so I would do it again and again in a heartbeat. And during that time, God would lead me to buy certain foods. When seasons were changing, He would say, "Oh, get this." Like He was teaching me natural
wow,
remedies that I didn't even know. But after the fact, I would find videos or whatever where it's like, "Oh, well, this helps with this," and I'm like, during that time, that's when like RSV and COVID were like springing up, and like every kid was getting RSV, and there was all these things about these little babies. It was heartbreaking, like in the hospital, unable to breathe. My son never even got a cold, and that's not
wow,
because I'm a great mom. That's because God was literally leading me. He would tell me, I would literally be making like my own like home like medicines, and
wow. So
like
awesome.
that was sustaining him. It was building his immunity. It was building our immunity. So we would be out in the world, but nothing ever came towards us.
Wow.
And like that's his name. One of his names is Jehovah Rapha for a reason.
Yes.
Like he is
Yes.
our healer. And I'm a strong believer that like thank God for the medical field and for the doctors and the
Yes.
nurses and our scientists
I'm
and all of
thankful
that.
for
We
them.
need that. But that will never be more powerful than the God that we serve. And so
Yes.
I'm a big believer that for every ailment out there, one, we have Jesus, we have the Holy Spirit, but we
Yes.
also have plants. Like there are plants that
Yes.
God created that are going to serve, to help provide that healing that we need. So
Yeah.
for me, I'm always looking, my first response will always be, well, what is the natural remedy for this? Because we live in a day and age where they want to pump us with all these pharmaceutical drugs,
Yeah.
and it's like, I don't know what you're putting in that. You could just be
So
making me more
true.
sick. I don't know,
Now, what
I
else
don't.
is it affecting? You're taking care of this one thing,
Yeah.
but where's it
Right.
leaking over there? Like
Right.
that's how I think about it sometimes. Oh Lord. But
Yeah.
again, going back to this relationship with God and having the understanding that He is a healer, Jehovah Rapha, so important. And I
Yes.
don't think a lot of us spend the time living that way because everything else is at our fingertips, like with what
Yeah.
we see.
Mm-hmm.
We believe what we see
Mm-hmm.
more than what, we can't see, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
we know there's a God that heals. And in some countries, we don't have the choice but to
Right.
go eat off the land and
Mm-hmm.
what's around us. But because we
Mm-hmm.
have choices, it limits our faith. Our
Mm-hmm.
choices limits our faith.
Yes. It does. And it's so funny because I don't know why, like, I think I was just born with like a very old soul. Like, I always say that I'm a grandma because I truly am.
Yeah.
But I always think about that, how like our ancestors didn't have all of this stuff and they
Yeah.
made it. And honestly, like, yeah, we have technological advances and all this stuff, but I feel like in a lot of ways they were better, stronger, wiser than us in so many
Yeah.
ways, where like we have more technology, but we're getting more ignorant, you
Yeah.
know? So it's like we're like degenerating, right?
Yeah.
But for
Wow.
them, they were making advancements in other ways and they were doing more with less. So that's
Yeah.
always kind of been my mentality. And I think
Hmm.
about, I think I'm so grateful that I also come from a family of immigrants, right? And so when I think about Haitians and what they are able to do with not having access to all of the things and all the privileges, but like they eat well and they live long. Like my grandfather just passed away last year and he was
Oh,
98 years old. Like, and
wow.
he was sharp as a tack. He could move, bend, do all the
Wow.
things. And it's
It's a
like
blessing.
that speaks volumes to
Hmm.
like the lifestyle that they live. And it's
Yes.
not one that we see here where it's very like sedentary, I think is the
Sedentary,
word, where
yeah.
we're always,
I'm
yeah, we're
very
always sitting.
sedentary. Sitting, doing
Yeah.
counseling all day. That's if I don't
Yeah, but
make the effort, it doesn't happen.
right, but in these other cultures and other countries, like, we could very easily look down on them and say this is so-called third world. We live in
Mm.
one world, but whatever. I don't like that terminology.
I
But
mean,
these
neither, yeah.
third world countries, but it's like, I'm not saying I'm not negating the conditions. Like
In
they
certain
live in some
areas,
rough
yeah.
conditions, but they also in a lot of ways are more blessed than us
Yeah, we don't
because
highlight that enough. The blessing,
yeah,
the
like
healthy
we have
lifestyles they
hospitals,
have.
we have all these things. They have God. So when
Yeah.
they pray, their prayers are different because
I'm
there's no
telling
other
you.
option.
Yes.
And it's like when I pray, I put myself like that because for me, I don't have any other option. When I
Yeah.
was going through that season where I didn't have health insurance, I didn't have this, I didn't have that, I only had God. And
Mm.
let me give you a concrete example. I took my son out because we were always in the house because I didn't have a lot of like extra money to spend, but I was like, I kind of was feeling bad. So he
Yeah.
wanted to go to like one of the trampoline parks and I was okay, whatever. Like I'm gonna bring him. I'll spend some money on this. So we went and I remember we were about to leave. He was fine the whole time. We were about to leave and I don't know, the last jump, something happened
Mm.
and he's like holding his ankle, his
Oh
leg, and I was
no,
like, in
God.
my mind, I was like, I don't have health insurance. Like, what's gonna
Oh
happen?
no,
Like,
yeah.
if I have to go to the hospital, they're gonna call DCF because all of these
Oh
thoughts are
boy.
going in my head.
Yeah.
So that could have been my reaction, but instead, I went into that bath. I carried him into that bathroom. I laid hands on him,
Oh my
and I
God.
prayed. I
Yes.
prayed. And let me tell you, I prayed with all the faith that I had inside of
Yeah.
me. I prayed because I knew I had no other
So
option.
good. Hmm.
And let me tell you, when I finished praying, he said, Mommy, it doesn't hurt anymore. He literally couldn't walk. Like I had to carry him to the
Wow.
bathroom because he couldn't walk on it. He said, Mommy, it doesn't hurt anymore. He walked out of that place. So that's
Wow.
just a small example.
That's
Like
so
when we
important.
really put our faith in God, He will come
Hmm.
through, but we have to activate that faith. And sometimes God is going to put us in a place where
You
He's going to
have to.
remove everything because now
Yes.
it's like you don't have a safety
Oof.
net. Now you're going to learn what it means when I say that I am Jehovah Jireh. When I
That
say
is
that I'm
it.
Rafa, you're gonna learn these names for yourself because I'm gonna bring you through an experience. So it was
Wow.
like I got to see that and my son got to see that. Like
Yeah.
God is real. Like he's gonna come through and take care of us.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
So
thank God, because I
powerful.
was like, oh, Lord.
So powerful. So what
Yeah.
do we do with our health when we have no other options? What do you
Mhm.
do with. Because I know my father, he taught me also to pray once I had a
Mhm.
sickness. I mean, that's the one thing
Mhm.
I can say. Living in another country, in Jamaica, and my father would always, we hardly went to the doctor.
Mhm.
We
Same
hardly went to the
Haitian.
doctor.
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
like we have
yeah.
oils and things. Like yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember the doctor, but I remember going to the dentist in Jamaica. I don't remember the doctor much because we had our home remedies. We didn't depend
Mhm.
on doctors as we do here.
Mm-hmm.
And the other day it brought me to this point where even the other day I've been anointing my gums, right? I told you I was being practical spiritually about my healing. I said I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
anoint my gums because since I've had kids, I've had trouble with my gums, and I go to the doctor. I mean the dentist. I go to the doctor, the dentist. I've been going to the dentist for a long time. I'm like, is
Mm-hmm.
the dentist making my gums worse? I don't know if they're making it any better or worse. I'm like, God, I've been praying about this thing.
Yeah.
I want to brush and not see pink. Like I just want to
Mm-hmm.
have healthy gums, and everything is connected again to how I
Mm-hmm.
eat. I mean, I don't eat terribly, but at the same time, there's some things I still don't have willpower over that I need to
Mm-hmm.
let go. And when I
Mm-hmm.
heard you talk about eating raw, I'm like, sometimes I really want to go raw, even for a season, like just to do something
Yeah.
different that will let
Mm-hmm.
me get the experience of the body that I'm looking to have. Let me have
Mm-hmm.
a different experience with myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've decided I need to depend on God more when it comes to my health and
Yeah.
not be so quick to, depend on a medication or depend on something that's just provided by the system. I
Mm-hmm.
want to depend on God when it concerning my health because
Yeah.
there may be coming a day, and we don't know if it's tomorrow,
Girl.
right?
You just literally read my mind. I was gonna say that. I said, I don't want to be doom and gloom, but I think we are going to experience a time where it's gonna be like the days of Joseph,
Yeah.
where there's gonna be famine in the land, and so we need to learn how to grow things on our own, what
Yes.
things that we need to put in our bodies, like, because it's going to be different, And so
Yeah.
I think a lot of people they're going to be shocked because they're going to
Wow.
have to do the preparation while they're in it. Whereas right now we have the opportunity to learn so that when we get to that point, it's like, okay, I don't have to be reactive, but I've already been proactive. I've been making the
Yes.
preparations. I know how to do these different things.
Yeah.
I know how to preserve food. I know how to, like, okay, one thing, like if you put garlic, like garlic cloves, like take, like shed the garlic and then put it in. I have like a little mason jar, and then you pour honey over it and you let that sit on your counter. You'll see that like a kind of a liquid kind of starts to form. You take a spoon of that every day. It's an immunity booster. Like that's my,
That's such a
I
good
don't take
tip.
medicine. That's what I do.
Oh my
So it's like
gosh.
little things like that. Like, like, but it's about learning and allowing yourself,
Thank
because
you
I
for
think some people are
that.
like, oh, whatever. Yeah, it honestly, and it's like simple things. It's very simple things. And these are things that, people back in the day did all the time.
Yeah.
But, I can get into, I'm very like nerdy about food and all that stuff.
I'm
So
glad you
I've even
are.
studied like when the change, like when the shift occurred.
Yeah.
So around the 50s and 60s, a lot of the food that we were getting were still locally grown. But
Mm.
then as when we went through like wars and different things, that's when like the TV dinner began to be a staple, because women started to work and
Right.
societal shifts started to occur. So we had more microwavable meals and whatever out of convenience. But because of that, then the food industry saw like, oh, like they want more of this stuff. So there was this shift away from the natural, from the homegrown, from the locally,
Yeah.
the local farmers, to more this industrialized,
Right.
food system. And so we've taken advantage of that more and more and more, where now it's not about health, it's about profit. So it's how much
Yes.
money can
How
I
much can we
collect for
distribute?
the food that I'm putting on these shelves. And so I'm going to give you the cheapest version of food.
God.
So I'm going to put all the chemicals, all the artificial coloring, all the artificial ingredients, because I'm poisoning you and also making you addicted to it.
Yeah.
And it's cheaper for you, but I'm making more money off of it,
Yeah. It's
So
about
it's
money.
like we're
It is.
keeping the system in play, when it's like we need to recognize it and shift. So for
Wow.
anyone listening, go to your local farmers, go to your farmers markets. Like
Yes.
if you have area to grow, I don't. I wish I had like, my own area to grow food, but
Yeah.
like do that stuff. Like join a community garden, because we have to get back to that way of living, because
Yeah.
one, like it's healthy for us, but also it benefits our community. Like
Absolutely.
people don't literally don't need to starve. We don't need to
It's
have,
so true. If we
people
have more
dying from hunger and
gardens.
all this stuff. Yeah, like
Yeah.
we could, there's enough to go around. One garden can produce so much. Like, do you know those people who are
Wow.
like, oh, I have all this extra squash or whatever, like like there's enough to go around, but it's that
Yeah.
we've become so selfish. So if we got back
Wow.
to like a community focused like that, there
Yeah.
would be enough food to go around. So, all right, I'll
Wow.
get off my soapbox now.
This is so powerful and important, Elizabeth. Like, you're saying some really important things here. I didn't know we'd get all of this from you today. Honestly, I didn't know where God was going to lead us, but I'm getting so much from you that's so beneficial, and I'm sure this is going to benefit for those of you who are listening. You know, she gave the whole tip about the honey and the garlic. Like, I'm
Hmm.
excited to implement that. Like, that's so
Yeah,
simple. Like, garlic, I have
yeah,
garlic, and sometimes it just stays in there. I'm like, I've hardly use it, but you know, like I
yeah.
cook with garlic and stuff. But that's such a good tip, and I love
Hmm.
having honey in the house. So,
Hmm.
but man, I have gained so much from you. But I'm definitely seeing the connection between everything, and even what the word has said about uh, even the love of men. You know, that's waning,
Hmm.
and just the fact that you know people love money more than God, love money more than
Hmm.
their life. I think all of
Hmm.
that's impacted the way we eat and the way we live in this country.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
really has. And this is
It
how we're seeing
has.
how everything is related concerning
Hmm.
our health on the
Hmm.
macro level and on the micro level. What's on the
Yes.
macro level has certainly been affecting us on the micro level, the
Hmm.
individual and how we can live. And so we have to be empowered today to know that we have the ability to do to change something, right? Like if we
Hmm.
wanna be healthy, maybe now check out the farmers market. Maybe encourage
Hmm.
that kind of life in your community, you know? Maybe if you have the space in your yard, consider starting a garden, you know? If you don't
Hmm.
have the ability to do that, maybe get some friends who are able to do that, you know? But there is a
Yeah.
way for us to live in a way that is more healthy. I have friends right now that I can picture in my mind that have a garden they were putting together when they moved into their home. And there's sometimes I feel like I want to have a little garden trough or something, you know, even if
Hmm.
it means having some tomatoes or something more
Hmm.
natural that I can grow. That would be a nice project for me to start up as a single lady. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, with the kids.
Creativity. There you go. You can
Yes,
feed
creativity.
that creative side. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I love it.
Thinking. You got me thinking for real. Like, what is
Yes.
something new I can do in this season, this next season of my
Yes.
life? That, I mean, it
Absolutely.
will actually be something I'm producing, literally.
Hmm.
That would be a blessing to my family, for
Right.
sure. Yeah. So,
I love that.
yeah, I'm really excited about what we've talked about, what we've shared. I think we've shared enough for the people. I really loved our conversation today, and I thank you so much, Liz, for being here with me,
Yes.
and for sharing so much information. I think there's a book in there, right?
I received that. I received that.
Yes,
Yes.
on health and
Amen.
fitness. You know, I would need
Yes.
that book. I would really love to hear your ideas. You said a lot today that I know there's a lot more where that came from.
Hmm.
So,
Okay, sis. I hear you.
yeah, don't be holding that on us now. Okay, we need that. We need the info. You know, there are a lot of
Yes.
people sharing information, but there's nothing like that personal, individual experience that someone could gain
Hmm.
from. So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yes.
all that knowledge that you have and years of experience is beneficial. It was really beneficial for me today. I mean, it
Thank
really
you.
got me thinking about the connectedness of the world and just
Hmm.
relationship, creativity, all the things you mentioned is all important to our health. And so,
Hmm.
with that, you know, I think we can say our goodbyes. So, I'll see you later.
Okay. Well, thank you again. It was my pleasure to be on your platform once again. I love you so much
Yeah.
and so happy with everything that you're doing and just, encouraging all of us and the women. And we need more of it. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Love you so much.
Love you
And until next
too.
time.
Take care. All
All
right.
right.
So there you have it, another episode complete. I feel like today's episode was very enlightening. I certainly didn't even realize that my friend Elizabeth was even a health coach. I learned so much about her upon doing this episode when we talked before and even after, I learned that she was a health coach. I'm like, I had no idea she had all that information. All I saw was that she was disciplined in her physical health. But God surprised me with all the knowledge that she had. And I really want you to consider her if you want to move ahead, a step forward in your health journey. It seems like God is moving her in a different direction this season of her life, and who knows what he will do in that part as far as her being a health coach. And I'm excited to be connected to her in this way, because I definitely want to give my body as a sacrifice, right, in a way that is healthy and not just spiritually, but I certainly do want to maintain this temple so that I can do the work that God has for me to do. I really hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope that with all the knowledge you've received, all the things you've gained, that you have made even more of a determination to stay married to his will. God bless you.